It's a big deal to me if you don't know. Now you know I'ma change your life. Just put your hands in the air.
Is here in the city and also president of the Emmett Till Justice Campaign. We are pleased to welcome to What's Up Kansas City here today, Mr. Alvin Sykes. Thank you for joining our program.
Mr. Brazil, I'm very glad and happy to be and honored to be here.
Well, let's just hit the ball right out of the park. You have an announcement. HBO is doing something very, very serious, and on Sunday, when this interview will air, they are going to make an announcement. Can you tell us a little bit about this announcement?
Yes, the 28th of August, this Sunday, is the 61st anniversary of the assassination of Emmett Till. On that date, HBO, in conjunction with Will Smith and Jay-Z, are giving an update announcement concerning their 6 to 8 hour miniseries on Emmett Till that's in the works. They originally announced last year in August, along with other films that are projects that are going on, that they were doing this, and now they are announcing in the update that the movie will be based on Emmett Till, the murder that shocked the world and propelled the civil rights movement, by Debbie Anderson.
And Mr. Sykes, I do see that you have Mr. Anderson's book, a copy of that in your lap. I also have a copy. This book is very interesting. I read it through it, and last night I reread through it. Over 350 pages long. With Will Smith and Jay-Z, first off, why two rappers? Why the involvement with this particular project?
Well, you know, it was kind of a surprise, but then when I look back, I seen that they had done another project together, you know, before this. So
what project was that?
I'm not sure what the name of it was. It was Amy or something. I don't remember what it was.
Okay, we'll have to.
But it was another project that they had done together. So when this came about, and it kind of two projects came together. Mr. Will Smith and Jay-Z, Casey Affleck, who's the brother of Ben Affleck, and he's a director. He originally bought the movie rights for Debbie's book before it was even finished. And then after this was finished, and Jay-Z and Will Smith and HBO announced their project, then those two got together, and Mr. Affleck brought Debbie's book to the table since he had the movie rights to it and joined with them, and he will be part of the directing team for the project.
That is some pretty huge star power. We thank you for announcing. First off, thank you for giving us that scoop. Do you think that they will cover the composite 350 pages? It's a lot in this book, and it doesn't really concentrate on any particular subject other than Emmett Till and the case there, the reopening of the case of Emmett Till, which we will cover here in just a second.
Yes, it's to be a 6 to 8 hour miniseries, so there will be a lot more that they would be able to cover than the other any other 2 hour projects. The director, they do have a writer now, and that was what they were mainly waiting on, was to secure the writer and the rights of the book. And so they're looking to be able to cover from his childhood on up to past the case itself, leading up to the reopening. And if they go by the book itself also covers what happened to all the significant players throughout the rest of their life, as well as the reopening of the case. And I'm just so happy and thrilled and honored that it includes my work in it, in childhood and cases here in Kansas City, such as Steve Harvey case and the Antoine Weatherspoon case in Kansas City that will be that's included in the book.
And you do not have a small part in this book. We will get to your role here in just a second. I would like to say that if they are auditioning for any actors, please stop here in Kansas City, the Lincoln Building. We have a lot of talented actors and actresses and production assistants who can lend a hand to this awesome project. Let's talk a little bit about the story, Mr. Sykes. Who exactly is Emmett Till? We know that He lived in Chicago. He was going to visit his cousins and was staying at his uncle's house in Money, Mississippi, family in Mississippi. Can you tell us a little bit about who Emmett Till was and what happened at the Bryant store on that August 24th morning? 1955 is the year we're in.
Moses Wright, who was his uncle, had come up to Chicago for a funeral of a relative. And so when he was going back, Wheeler Parker, Emmett's cousin, one of his cousins, was going to go back with him to visit. So Emmett really wanted to go, and so he wanted to go with Wheeler and go back and visit. So he kind of begged his mom to let him go. She didn't want to let him go at first, but he really pushed her and prevailed, and so she let him go down there. They went, and while they were down there, he got to visit with them.
And didn't want to let him go, I like to say, because the racial climate,
yeah,
atmosphere of Chicago,
right.
Even though it's 1950s and Jim Crow is prevalent, totally different landscape.
That was the main reason, and she told him, what to do, and said if you see a white woman, don't look directly at her, and she tried to prep him, but he was young and he didn't take some of that as serious. He was 13. He just turned 14 right before he left, going down there.
So we go with our cousins to Bryant's grocery store, and he gets in trouble for accepting a dare or bet and whistles or touch. What exactly happens in Bryant's store that fateful day?
Well, nobody really knows. There's various versions of what happened. The version that the Simeon Wright and Wheeler Parker give, who were directly there, was that he whistled at Carolyn Bryant, the wife of the owner of the store, Roy Bryant, and then left. When they left, she went out, they believe, to get a gun, so they kind of got in the car and took off, and they thought that it was over when they didn't hear anything for several days about it.
And Uncle didn't know anything about it.
Well, originally, at some point, if you go by Devery's book says that he became aware at some point. He wasn't originally aware. And so once they thought that it was over, Wheeler and them, and they made them not tell him. Then one night, Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam, his half-brother, they came to the house and kidnapped him and took him out of the bed. First they went to Wheeler Parker's bed and seen that it wasn't him, so then they went into the other room where he was in bed with Simeon Wright, and they wanted to talk to the fat boy with all the mouth, is how they described it. And so they kidnapped him.
They did more than talk.
Huh?
They did more than talk.
Yeah, and took him away, and ultimately killed him. They said they wanted to send a message to other people about what you don't do when you're down here, and so they killed him.
And when a message was sent, what did it do to the nation's conscience at this time? Not only was Emmett Till brutally murdered, but you had the NAACP stepping up to offer legal assistance. You had maybe Till-Mobley allowing the press to photograph this mutilated body in a coffin, open coffin funeral, Emmett Till's funeral. What did those particular incidents do to a nation's conscience at this time? It
really shocked the country, and in the time that we were in at that period of time, to have a young boy as a victim. I mean, they were used to. I wasn't around then, but they were used to having injustices. But what they weren't used to was having young boys that were killed, and then Miss Mobley allowing the casket to be open casket. It shocked the country to see what hate really looked like. So it served as a catalyst for the movement of during that period of time of the movement. Rosa Parks, 100 days later, said that when she refused to give up her seat, she was thinking about Emmett Till at the time.
And that may not have even happened. That's amazing. Just imagine how one event led to another event, and years later, here we sit in that movie's being produced. I like to read this quote about that the author, Mr. Anderson, put in his book. Over the years, the name Emmett Till has provoked anger, bitterness, uneasiness, sadness, guilt, and shame, depending upon locale, race, generation, and sometimes even gender. Yet the emotional impact of the case has made it a rallying cry for change. He goes on to say this can be demonstrated in pivotal moments, and he lists some moments such as Rosa Parks' case and other incidences. Let's talk a little bit about your involvement with this. Mr. Anderson says that you read in the Kansas City Call. You're a tireless advocate for justice. You were researching other justice campaigns, other victim rights campaigns, and in the Call, this is around 2002. Is that right?
Yes, to the end.
Mamie Till-Mobley said that she had been trying to get the Emmett Till murder case reopened since 1956. You eventually reached out to Ms. Mobley after doing extensive research. Can you tell me what that first meeting was like?
Well, I'll tell you how the first call went first. When I read the article and I seen that she, what she had said, and then I seen also with the Keith Beauchamp and
documentary filmmaker,
right.
The Untold Story of Emmett Till.
Right, and he had done one of the movies, and then there was a second movie that was done, The Murder of Emmett Till, and together they both were claiming that they had evidence, that there were people that they had interviewed, and they thought was that there was potential people that were still alive. So at that point, I did two things. One, I started to reach out to Miss Mobley and Wheeler Parker. Wheeler Parker was the cousin, and in that article, his church was listed. So I called and left a message for him. Then I was living with an activist, Marianne Flunder, over in Kansas City, Kansas. She recently passed. So I called from there to Emmett's mother, and that was really a moment in time.
How did you get her number?
Huh?
How did you get Miss Mobley's number?
That was the easier part. I mean, when they had been trying to get the case, talked about getting the case reopened before other things, they said, we couldn't find Miss Mobley, get in contact with her. I just called information, and she was listed in the phone book.
Wow.
So when she got on the phone, she didn't first say who she was. She talked very business-fied. Tell me about yourself. If I knew her, or got a hold of her, this type of thing. What would you do? What have you done? And all like this. She talked very business-fied. And then I started noticing, as the conversation kept going, that she was getting softer and softer in the tone. It became less business-fied. And some people don't believe it, but the TV just started fading away. And I was just in the room. It was like I was in the room by myself. And it was about 10 seconds or 20 seconds into the conversation that I realized that I was talking to Emmett Till's mother. It was about 20 seconds before she said, "my son," for the first time in it. So I had told her about our involvement. I had told her about the Steve Harvey case and what we had done with his case and our relationship with the Justice Department, and that we understood that there was a relation between Steve Harvey's widow's family and, Steve Harvey's widow's side of the family.
Liberty Memorial hate crime in the early 80s.
Right. And Emmett Till's family. So when we were pursuing Steve Harvey's case, she would always say, "This is the second hate crime in our family." So after talking with her, and I had already talked with the Attorney General's office, David Israelite was at the time the Deputy Chief for the Attorney General, and I talked to him and ultimately the Civil Rights Division. So at that point, I knew that we were going to be able to get an investigation. And after talking with her, after we went to Chicago, myself and Donald Berger, who was my partner in justice, he worked in the Justice Department for many years and was a strong advocate for justice himself. We drove to Chicago and met with Miss Mobley. And after talking to her, and it was a real good experience. I mean, she was in the kitchen baking a cake for us and
What kind of cake?
Huh?
What kind of cake, do you remember?
It was a chocolate cake, but I don't remember whether it was German chocolate or not. I got this thing about German chocolate, so I don't know if it was chocolate. But at any rate, after talking with her, we came to the conclusion that we need to go forward to pursue the case. I told her that as a human rights worker, I would only go for the truth, and I would have no preconceived notion of what anybody else thought happened, and I could promise her an investigation, but I couldn't promise her a conviction.
And Mr. Sykes, this was in 2002. You were a tireless advocate, even then, lobbying Senator Jim Talent, Senator Tom Coburn of Oklahoma, and working behind the scenes to get Unsolved Civil Rights Crime Act, or Till bill, that was signed eventually by President George Bush in September of 2008, as relates directly to the Mobley Emmett Till situation. You worked to get that case reopened. In February of 2007, Joyce Childs, who was a district attorney over Mississippi's 4th District, presented evidence for a manslaughter indictment against Carolyn Bryant Donham. She has since remarried the woman who Emmett allegedly whistled at in the store, Bryant's store. The grand jury came to a unanimous decision that evidence against Donham was unpersuasive, and they returned a no bill, essentially closing that case forever. After all the hard work you put into petitioning, doing the research, petitioning the senators, the district attorneys, the necessary legal minds, as well as contacting Ms. Mobley, after all that work, essentially, how did that verdict make you feel?
Well, it made various parties feel in different ways. My feeling was, when I told Miss Mobley, I told her, I can promise you an investigation.
And she has thus since passed away.
Right. Well, matter of fact, she passed away 7 days after I met her.
Wow.
In 2000, January 6th of 2003, 7 days, almost to the minute, she passed away. We had set up a meeting with the state attorney general I had for that day, to his special assistant, and was waiting for her and Keith to come on and get on the phone, and Keith never called to that evening and said she was gone.
Sorry to hear that. We're here in 2008, and can you tell us a little bit about how that verdict made you feel?
Well, like I said, the verdict itself, I just wanted the truth. And so I had very much confidence in Joyce Childs, that she would, if it was any way possible, and if the truth was that Carolyn Bryant was involved, then she would take it and do it. I didn't want it to be revenge. As a matter of fact, the week before the grand jury convened, I put a press release in the Mississippi newspapers and said, encourage the people in Mississippi that if you do not see the evidence that would warrant her conviction or her being indicted, don't do like the jury did back in '55. Have the courage not to indict, because we only want the truth.
As a result of that, the grand jury's version of the truth was told. Mr. Sykes, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing presently? We mentioned the Till Bill 1 a little earlier, was passed by President George Bush II. Is there a Till Bill 2?
Yes, just briefly, Till Bill 1 came about with the support of Senator Jim Talent of Missouri, who helped introduce, helped draft the bill and find the original sponsors for the bill. It came about because the short version is him and Senator Talent and Senator Schumer from New York tried to introduce legislation to get the Justice Department to speed up the investigation in Emmett Till because people were dying. And I thought that was inappropriate because if they had done that and that had passed and somebody had got indicted, then it would be the defense attorney would say, hey, this was a rush to judgment. If you had just went the normal route, you'd found out my client didn't do this, but Congress pushed him. So when I talked to Senator Talon, I said that what you could do that's not symbolism is there's all these other cases out there that were not investigated. It didn't have the big names like Emmett Till and Cheney, Goodman, and Sherner, and all. And so if you created a unit that focused in on those cases, then that would be doing something meaningful. So he agreed, and that led to the Emmett Till Unsolved Civil Rights Crime Act, or Till Bill 1. That would, a law would then establish for 10 years a unit that would investigate unsolved civil rights era murders from 1969 backwards. Till Bill 2 now, because we're at the end of the 2000...
Coming up on the expiration date.
The expiration date is 2017. And so now we have in the House and the Senate Till Bill 2, which is the Emmett Till Unsolved Civil Rights Crime Reauthorization Act of 2016. And that bill, the distinction is, one, it would be a permanent law, it won't expire, and two, it removes the time limit off of the racially motivated cases that could be examined from 1970 forward. So it would go indefinitely into the future and be a permanent legacy, legislative legacy for Emmett Till. And right now, last month, July 14th, we got it passed by unanimous consent in the Senate.
Congratulations.
Senator Burr, Republican from North Carolina, and Senator McCaskill from the great state of Missouri really pushed this bill and led the effort and got it passed by unanimous consent. And then now it goes to the House. Congressman John Lewis, who was the original sponsor before, is now leading the effort again on the House side, along with Congressman Sensenbrenner from Wisconsin. What we're looking at in September is for the bill that already passed the Senate. If there's any kind of changes to it in the House, then it would have to go back to the Senate. So what we're pursuing is what's called a suspension bill. And that means a suspension of the rules, meaning that if you get 2/3 passage for the bill, nobody can put no attachments to it. And the last time, the first time that we did Till Bill 1, it passed the House 422-2. So we're working very hard to get that, to meet that 2/3 threshold. September, when Congress reconvenes, we'll be going back and forth to D.C. to push for a vote in September, and hopefully by the end of the year.
All eyes on the Till Bill 2, which is essentially a stronger bill.
Yes.
You also have a GoFundMe page. What exactly is that for, Mr. Sykes?
So what we're doing is we're helping to generate funds to help cover the expenses of sending our delegation to Washington.
And we understand lobbying is a big, essential part of getting these bills
Yes,
passed.
the key is sitting down and meeting with the staffers and the Congress people and explaining to them the bill. That's how you really get things passed. So we want people we need the help, so if people can help, they can go to...
we have that address on the bottom of our screen. You see it as we are discussing this right now. We thank you, Mr. Sykes, for coming and speaking with us. We're excited about the movie. I understand that this is a very popular topic, that Whoopi Goldberg also has her hat in the ring. She's producing something for theatrical release, as well as Chaz Ebert, Roger Ebert's widow. And there are these projects
David
also.
Barr is also having one. He wrote a play with Miss Mobley called Faces of Emmett Till. So there's really 4 projects, different projects in the work, and we're working to make sure that tried our best to make sure that they all tell the truth, whichever ones make it to the finish line on it, and we look forward to being of some assistance and the story being told, because young people particularly don't know much about Emmett Till. I remember when we brought Wheeler Parker here several years ago, and we had him on the phone at KPRS, and he was telling the story, and young people were calling in from Kansas City saying, "I didn't know Emmett Till was a person. I thought he was a song, part of a song."
Wow.
And stuff.
Wow.
And so we hope that by people looking at these movies, people don't go by what you see in books and law as being the truth. It's what they see on the screen. So we hope that with these projects that they will finally get to know the truth about Emmett, and that the poison that came out of Emmett's death will continue to turn into the medicine of justice for many more people to come. And we hope that the message that Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam wanted to send, we want to send the message back that if they had known all the positive things that would come out of Emmett's life for 50 or 60 years later, that they'd have put him on a train and sent him back to Chicago.
Now, Mr. Sykes, we know with your involvement that these are stellar projects, and we want to keep our viewers up to date and also aware of what's going on. Mr. Sykes, we thank you for your time. Do you have anything else you'd like to tell us?
Well, I want to thank you for your preparation for this. It was very outstanding. That's why I really wanted to give this interview to you on it. And young people need to know and need to get involved earlier on. The majority of these cases that get solved always have a journalist behind them. And so I try to make myself available to young people as much as possible, and especially you, and certainly want to thank your president, Carlos Nelson, for giving opportunity for all of you to learn the skill and be able to move on.
We'd like to thank Mr. Sykes for joining us here today. He again is the president of the Emmett Till Justice Campaign, and is also one of the key lobbyists for the bill, the Till Bill 2, which is currently in House, and will, keeping our fingers crossed, get passed into legislation in September session. What's up, Kansas City? I'm your host, Glenn Brian Frizzell. Check out more video online at www.whatsupkansascity.net. And remember, the sky's the limit. Aim for the moon. If you miss it, at the very least, you would have landed among the stars. Take care. I'd like to also thank our camera lady, Gigi. Till next time, keep it real.
I'm IFBB Bikini Pro Cat Williams, and when I'm not working out in the gym, I'm searching the web on Cascade Media and What's Up Kansas City. So make sure you check them out.